So we returned to Heywood Reserve, my little reserve just outside Chippenham in Wiltshire. I've replenished the log feeder, which is you can see on the screen. Yeah, so an exciting development today. Earlier this morning I found some pigeon roadkill and I put it out on the Buzzard Feeder, and I pretty much left it there and forgot about it all day, doing other things. When I came back, we had a visitor, the first visitor being a crow, and I'll just show you some of that footage. It gets more exciting than this, I assure you. Hopefully you're seeing a live feed now. So we had earlier this morning. Can't quite see the time on the screen, maybe you can. It's a bit small at the moment, but I'm just showing you a little caption. We had a crow come in and started picking at the pigeon. Nothing on the feeder at the moment. I did see a goldfinch earlier. But I say earlier this morning, the cam at the reserve caught this, 2 crows coming in to have a meal on the pigeon. So that was fairly exciting in itself, but there was more to come. So I'll show you what else happened. So sometime after the crows appeared, this also happened. There's a crow still there, but that soon disappeared. We had another visitor. Just waiting for that to come through. So if you can see the feeder at the right hand bottom of the screen, we had a buzzard come in. So that normally takes me weeks to attract buzzards in once I've stopped feeding them, but today put the first pigeon out and we've got a buzzard in. I did hear them calling yesterday afternoon, so I thought, you know, we might have some luck. But essentially this morning, I think that's about 11:30, can't actually see the time on that, but 11:30 a buzzard popped in and had a very good feed, stayed for quite some time. Okay, so that's really exciting. 1 buzzard in, we might get 2 at some point, who knows, but that's essentially on the feeder about 20 metres that way, straight up. There's a buzzard feeder. I'll have a quick look, see if there's anything on it now. Don't think there is, but let me see. I'm going to move the cam, bear with me. Be a bit of a... Right, okay. So there's the feeder. So that's the buzzard feeding station. And there's the remains of a pigeon at the back. I put it at the back of the feeder because I just wanted to give them a bit of privacy, a bit of confidence to keep coming in. I'll feed them for as long as I can, help them get through the winter and be ready for breeding next year. So certainly 1 buzzard in, nothing there at the moment of note. So as I said, some really good news. We've had our first buzzard, and very early. Normally, as I say, it takes me weeks to attract a buzzard in, but they've found the pigeon I put out this morning, a bit of pigeon roadkill I managed to find. I pick up roadkill fairly often and put it in a freezer that I've got in my garage for this purpose. We've got a great tit come in and out again. So I replenished the seed about probably 2 hours ago. So I'm hoping we'll get some various birds come in. So not a lot of action on the feeders at the moment. A lot of passerine action. Something just flew in there. Yeah, we've got a blue tit and a great tit just come in. Lovely blue tit. Something else below that flew off rather rapidly. Lovely chaffinch just come in as well, male chaffinch. So we can get a better focus on that. The blue tit came in behind the chaffinch there. When you've got finches coming into your feeders, it is really important to disinfect them every now and again. That chaffinch just passed had scaly foot, which is a common foot disease that chaffinches get. It's just real sign that they're in poor condition basically, and they pick it up. They can pick it up around feeders, so it is important that every once in a while, maybe once a week, you clean your feeders and disinfect them to try and avoid scaly foot. Other names for it, they're leg lesions essentially, or tassel foot you might know it as, depending what part of the country you come from. So sometimes it's quite bad, like big clumps on their feet. So again, just disinfect your feeders every once in a while, maybe weekly, and hopefully that would avoid contaminating and spreading that scaly foot to other birds. Let's have a look. This should take us to my feeder there. We've got a goldfinch on the feeder, as you can see. Might struggle to focus in on that. Goldfinch. Okay, so earlier we had a buzzard on our feeding station for buzzards. So I'll go to that. That's at the back of this area. You can see right at the back, in the middle, a pigeon pretty much destroyed. That was a bit of roadkill that I found, and I put that out today. And the first time we have a buzzard come in this autumn, which is great news. And that's normally takes me weeks to attract a buzzard in. They're very shy birds. They prefer carrion and not necessarily to kill things. If they can get an easy meal, they will. But they're very wary. They're very wary of humans. Obviously, I'm doing this remotely. If I was in the hide now, which is 20 metres this way towards the camera, I'd struggle to get them in. I'd have to camo up and get there early, probably before it's light, and wait essentially. Then I'll stand more of a chance. Lovely blue tits come in as well. So that's a nice angle, nice view. The chaffinch, give it a few weeks, will look gorgeous. A male chaffinch, we'll get some colour back into it. It's molting at the moment. This time of year, the summer, you don't see that many birds around in the summer because they tend to molt and lie low. Birds molt one feather at a time, so it's not a case of all the feathers disappear, but they molt one feather at a time, and therefore it takes a while. It takes a couple of weeks for them to molt and get new feathers and to look pristine condition. So a lot of the birds at the reserve at the moment are a little bit tatty because they're in molt. So if you wonder where all your birds go in the summer, if you do carry on feeding, which I don't, but if you do carry on feeding in the summer, you'll find that they'll lie low. They've got other food, of course, in the summer, lots of invertebrates, insects, etc., and so less dependent on feeders. But they do tend to lie low. Birding in August in this country is difficult. That's what a lot of people go to. The seabirds, waders, etc. A little bit easier, maybe. And obviously, late August the migration starts. Now we're well into the migration. And one thing I did notice, when I drove up to the reserve, there's a little drive up to the reserve. There was a stonechat. So I have seen one stonechat on the reserve before, but one of the farmers cut the grass. It was long grass, cut it, and they were off basically. No habitat. But there is some long grass just below the reserve, and I'll probably have a little scout out to find out where it's. It may overwinter there. We'll see. It may be just feeding up, migrating, moving on. Lovely little bird. It would be fantastic if that stayed around for a few weeks or even longer. But I'll search for it and see if I can get some photographs of the stonechat. Beautiful bird. As you can see, there's the buzzard, lovely specimen. One of my favourite birds. Love buzzards. Great to get them in flight and perched. They're beautiful birds. Other than that, there's nothing on the feeder at the moment. fairly soon they'll be thinking of roosting the small passerines. They kind of roost fairly early, whereas if a buzzard was here, it'd probably stay quite late. They'll feed into the darkness basically. There's a blue tit come in, taking a sunflower heart. Probably the best food if you want to attract birds to your garden or anywhere for that matter. Sunflower hearts, safe bet. Most birds love sunflower hearts. You know, other birds like different things, but sunflower hearts, that's a good starting point. Peanuts, you know, they're good as well. They'll attract in some bigger birds. Jays will come in for peanuts here. But sunflower hearts are a staple diet, well not staple diet, but a food that most of the passerines in this country will readily go to. So certainly garden birds anyway. Okay, I'll turn that loop off. But you can see the we have a great tit come in. Let's just turn it off so you can see it. And away. Don't stay long. Sunflower heart. They might discard one or two. I think they do a weight test. Pretty much they know, you know, the good sunflower hearts from the bad ones. Just the weight of them, I guess. And they do the same for peanuts. You know, you often see blue tits, great tits, throwing away peanuts because they're a little bit lighter than the ones packed with protein, I think. And it's great really because it feeds the birds that feed on the ground, typically like chaffinches for example. So yeah, it's not a bad behaviour. So go to preset 1, this is the Buzzard Feeder. So earlier today we had a buzzard on that. We took some footage and I shared that with some of you already in this live feed. I'll probably show you again in a second. So that's one feeder. You'll see at the back there, just in this area, a pigeon that's been pretty much eaten by a buzzard, and a couple of crows had a feed as well. This should be my hanging feeders, and we've normally got quite a few goldfinch on those, as you can see in the background. So that's the hanging feeders. And I've just set up a preset. Oh, there's a great tit just came in, and I've just set up a preset here for the log, where I've got some just seed laid out, and there's the log. So nice camera system really, because it's all remote. It's you know, it's solar powered with a battery, and quite a flexible camera in that I can rotate it. It detects movement, so we don't waste power, and it runs on a SIM card 4G. So a nice little system. Gives me something to do in the evenings. When it gets dark, I can look around this part of the reserve, see if there are any owls in, etc. I've posted footage last year of owls that came in and caught on camera here. There's a great tit, nice, good nick. Great tit just flew off. Okay, so I'm probably going to bring it to a conclusion. Thanks for joining me. Just before I go, I'll just share with you once more the footage from earlier this morning, and this footage is basically of a buzzard, common buzzard, that came in onto the feeding station, the buzzard feeding station at the back. Stayed for probably an hour, I think. Did try and take the pigeon away at one point, but thought better of it and just stayed where it was, and pretty much, you know, stripped it of all the meat that was on it. I'm going to try and find some more pigeons, roadkill. I quite often stop, pick up roadkill. Bit sad, aren't I? But no, I pick it up, put it in the freezer, ready for feeding buzzards. So pheasants, as this time of year, you know, hundreds of pheasants are killed on the roads. The bird that's introduced just primarily for hunting. They're not indigenous, but there's millions of them in the UK, and lots get killed on the roads, of course. If I see one, I'll stop, pick it up, put it in the freezer to feed the buzzards in the winter. Help them get through the winter. We've got a great tit. nothing rare coming in, just a normal woodland garden birds you'd expect. You saw that one, look, tossing 3, 4, tossed 3 sunflower seeds away before it took one, and that's what I was saying earlier, that they seem to weigh them in their bills, in their beaks, and the ones that aren't protein packed, heavier, they discard. They seem to know what the good ones from the bad ones, and they'll discard 2 or 3 and then pick up the one they want, and off they go. And that's good, because the ones that are discarded fall to the ground primarily, and that will feed the ground birds, like the pheasants come in. There's a chaffinch, pheasants come in, and things like dunnock will feed on the ground, and chaffinch will feed on the ground. So the chaffinch you see now will feed on the ground. What the system also allows me to do is select an area where I think there'll be motion, and so it can discard other areas, and I can select areas. So where I think a bird will fly through, I can set that as the area, and it will trigger as soon as a bird flies through an area. And I get birds like buzzards, video of it perching, flying in and perching. So that's quite useful as well. So nice system. I'd love to expand it, get a few more cameras around the reserve, but we'll see. We'll see what my accountant says when I see her tonight. When we go to bed is the best time to ask her, really. But she's pretty good to me. Loves nature as well, so that certainly helps. That's fantastic. Okay, so thanks very much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.